ice and emerald. The wasteland stretched endlessly beneath a pewter sky, its surface a canvas of crystalline desolation where no living thing had walked for centuries. Here, in this forgotten realm between dimensions, frost formed geometric patterns that defied natural law, spirals that turned inward upon themselves, fractals that seemed to pulse with malevolent intent. The very air held a quality of wrongness, as if reality had grown thin, and something else pressed against the veil. Jade materialized from the swirling mists like an emerald phantom, her staff cutting through the supernatural cold with practiced grace. Each breath she took formed clouds that dissipated too quickly, consumed by an atmosphere that seemed hungry for warmth. Her jade-green uniform, normally a source of comfort and identity, now appeared starkly alien against the monochromatic landscape. "I know you're here," she called, her voice carrying further than it should in the dense air. "The shadows told me." From behind a formation of ice that resembled twisted spears, a figure emerged with mechanical precision. Sub-Zero moved like winter itself, inevitable, implacable, beautiful in its absolute certainty. His blue and silver uniform seemed crafted from the very essence of the frozen realm, and behind his mask only his eyes were visible, burning with an intensity that belied the glacial nature of his power. "The shadows lie," he said, each word accompanied by a small cloud of frost. "They whisper what you wish to hear, not what is true." Jade circled him slowly, her staff spinning in practiced arcs. "Then tell me the truth, Lin Kuei. Tell me why this place exists. Tell me why I can feel something watching us from beyond the ice." Sub-Zero's stance shifted almost imperceptibly, weight redistributing with the precision of a master warrior. "Truth is a luxury in the wasteland. Here there is only survival and the price of power." The ice beneath their feet cracked with sounds like breaking bones. Through the fissures something dark and viscous seeped upward. Not water, but something that moved with purpose and intelligence. Jade leapt back, her emerald energy flaring around her staff. "What is this place?" she demanded. "A proving ground," Sub-Zero replied, forming ice daggers in each hand. "A place where the elder gods test those who would claim dominion over life and death. We are not the first to walk here, Jade. Look closer at the ice formations." She did, and horror crawled up her spine like a living thing. Within the twisted spires and geometric impossibilities were shapes, human shapes, frozen in moments of terror or ecstasy. Warriors from countless realms preserved in their final moments, their faces locked in expressions that suggested they had seen something beyond mortal comprehension. "They were given a choice," Sub-Zero continued, his voice carrying a note of something that might have been pity. "Fight and potentially ascend to a higher plane of existence, or refuse and become part of the landscape forever. And you brought me here for what? To test my resolve." Jade's staff blazed with green fire, melting the ice in a wide circle around her feet. "To see if I'll break like the others?" "No," Sub-Zero's admission came quietly. "I brought you here because something is wrong with this place. Something that wasn't here before. The frozen warriors, they're beginning to move." As if summoned by his words, a low moan rose from the ice. The sound was neither wind nor living voice, but something caught between. The collective anguish of souls trapped between states of being. Around them, the twisted formations began to shift, ancient ice cracking as preserved limbs twitched with borrowed life. "How long have you known?" Jade asked, her combat stance now defensive, staff held ready against threats both known and unseen. "Since the last lunar eclipse. Something from outside this dimension has taken notice of our prison. It feeds on the essence of the trapped warriors, growing stronger with each soul it consumes." A figure emerged from the nearest ice spire, once human, now something else entirely. Its skin had the translucent quality of ancient ice, shot through with dark veins that pulsed with unnatural rhythm. Its eyes were holes in reality, spaces where light went to die. "We are no longer alone," it spoke with a voice like grinding glaciers. "The Devourer has come to feast on champions." Sub-Zero moved without warning, his ice daggers extending into proper blades as he engaged the creature. His movements were economical, each strike designed to shatter ice and dispel the dark energy that animated their opponent. But for every fragment he destroyed, two more took its place. Jade flowed into combat like liquid emerald, her staff carving arcs of brilliant green through the air. Where Sub-Zero fought with precision, she fought with intuition, her body reading the rhythm of battle like a dancer interpreting music. Her strikes found gaps in the creature's defense that logic couldn't explain. "It's not truly alive," she called over the sound of combat. "It's a puppet dancing on strings we can't see." "Then we cut the strings," Sub-Zero replied, launching himself into a spinning attack that created a whirlwind of ice shards. The creature laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You cannot destroy what has already claimed dominion over death itself. I am merely the herald. The Devourer comes, And when it arrives, even your precious elder gods will bow. More figures began emerging from the ice, warriors from different eras and realms, all bearing the same translucent, corrupted appearance. Jade and Sub-Zero found themselves back to back, surrounded by an army of the once dead. Any brilliant strategies? Jade asked, her staff weaving protective barriers of emerald energy. One, Sub-Zero said, and she could hear the grim determination in his voice. But you won't like it. Try me, the creature spoke of strings. If this is truly a puppet show, then somewhere in this wasteland is the puppeteer. We need to find it and destroy it, but the only way to locate something that exists between dimensions is to partially enter that space ourselves. The risk is that we might not find our way back. Around them, the circle of corrupted warriors tightened. Their movements were becoming more coordinated, more intelligent. Whatever controlled them was learning from their attacks, adapting to their fighting styles. How do we do it? Jade asked. Sub-Zero's hands began to glow with intense cold. I can create a portal using the ice itself as a conduit, but it requires both our energies, my control over the frozen realm, and your connection to the living world. The living world. Your emerald power isn't just combat magic, Jade. It's life force made manifest. In a place where life and death have lost meaning, you represent something the devourer cannot corrupt. The eternal cycle of renewal. The first of the corrupted warriors reached their defensive circle. Jade's staff met its attack, the impact sending shockwaves through both combatants. The creature's touch was like ice and void combined, trying to drain the warmth from her very soul. Now would be good, she shouted, spinning away from a clawed swipe that would have opened her throat. Sub-Zero knelt and pressed his palms to the ground, ice spread out from his touch, but this was different from his usual manifestations. The frozen surface became mirror-smooth, reflecting not their faces but something else, glimpses of a vast space filled with writhing shadows and eyes like dying stars. Link your power to mine, he commanded. Let the emerald fire flow through the ice. Jade planted her staff beside his hands and poured her energy into it. Green fire met supernatural cold, and instead of canceling each other out, they merged into something new, a portal that showed the space between spaces, the void where the true enemy waited. Through the mirror ice they saw it, the devourer. It was less a creature than a concept made manifest, hunger given form and purpose. It existed in the gaps between thoughts, in the pause between heartbeats, feeding on the potential energy of lives unlived and dreams unrealized. It's been using the warriors as conduits, Jade realized, drawing power from our realm through their preserved forms. Then we sever the connection, Sub-Zero said. Together, they plunged through the portal, leaving their physical forms behind and entering the void as pure will and intention. Here, Sub-Zero's rigid discipline and Jade's fluid adaptability became something greater than the sum of their parts. They moved through the space between dimensions like twin forces of nature, ice and life, preservation and change, order and freedom. The devourer turned its attention to them, and they felt the full weight of its hunger. It had consumed entire civilizations, devoured gods and mortals alike, adding their essence to its ever-growing void. But in their combined energy it found something it couldn't digest, two opposing forces that strengthened each other through their very opposition. You think your small lights can challenge the eternal dark, the devourer spoke without words, its voice the absence of sound. Not challenge, Jade replied, her emerald essence flaring brighter. Transform. Sub-Zero's ice began to change, taking on the properties of her life energy. It became preservation with purpose, cold that protected rather than destroyed. Jade's fire, in turn, gained the stability of his discipline, burning with sustainable intensity rather than consuming everything in its path. They struck as one, not to destroy the devourer, for such a force could not be unmade, but to redirect its hunger toward something that could actually nourish it. Instead of feeding on stagnant death, they offered it the energy of change itself, the constant transformation that kept the universe alive and growing. The devourer paused, tasting this new offering. For an entity that had known only the staleness of preserved souls, the flavor of genuine transformation was intoxicating. It began to feed on the natural entropy of the void itself, becoming not a consumer of life but a force of necessary change. When Jade and Sub-Zero returned to their physical forms, the wasteland was transforming. The corrupted warriors were dissolving peacefully, their essence finally free to continue whatever journey death had interrupted. The twisted ice formations were becoming something beautiful, crystal gardens that caught and reflected light in patterns that seemed to sing. Is it over? Jade asked, her staff still humming with residual energy. Sub-Zero nodded slowly. The devourer has found a new purpose. It will feed on the natural decay of old realities, making space for new ones to grow. The balance is restored. They stood together in the changing landscape, watching as the wasteland became something else, not quite alive, but no longer dead. A place of transition, where old things could end and new things could begin. "You were right about the strings," Jade said finally. "But sometimes the puppet can teach the puppeteer how to dance." Sub-Zero allowed himself what might have been a smile behind his mask. "And sometimes ice and fire can create something neither could achieve alone." As they prepared to leave the transformed realm, Jade looked back once more at the crystal gardens that had replaced the frozen tombs. In their depths, she could swear she saw new forms beginning to take shape. Not trapped souls, but seeds of possibilities yet to come. The wasteland had become a garden, and they were its unlikely gardeners.